The next session is called Tides Are Changing, a New Approach to Tourism and Land Management. And my name is Cassia Patel. I'm the Director of Programs at Oceanic Global, and again, so grateful for you all. And I'll introduce our next speakers up. Andrea Belén and Stephen Brooks, who are going to share about the need for responsible land management through permaculture and how that impacts ocean health and coastal systems, and the need as well for feminine leadership. So thank you, Nat, for bringing that up. Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Stephen Brooks, and I grew up in North Miami, Florida, on a canal, a few canals away from the Biscayne Bay, a few miles from the Atlantic Ocean. And last year, for the first time, my parents have lived in the same house for 47 years. The ocean rose above their dock. I moved 28 years ago to Costa Rica, and I watched on vacation there, I witnessed a playground full of indigenous children get sprayed by a Chiquita banana crop duster. And it rocked my world. It was like, emergency brake on my life. How could this be happening? How can we be treating these people this way? How can we be treating the earth this way? Come on, humanity. I know that we could do so much better. So yeah, I moved there, and where I used to play volleyball on the beach, I now snorkel. It's really happening. I became absolutely obsessed with plants. At our farm in Costa Rica, in Punta Mona, we have one of the largest collections of useful plants on earth. We've been scouring the globe, finding plants that make life better and spreading them as quickly and as carefully as possible. And as we were living there, I just couldn't help but think, is this who's designing our world? I grew up in the suburbs. What a weird place. And I just knew we could do so much better. I was getting older, wanting to have children. My parents were getting older. How was I going to care for them? So I started thinking, why can't we just start the community that we're dreaming? So I created a criteria of what would that look like. And first and foremost, I chose Costa Rica, the land of pura vida. And I knew I wanted to live on a crystal clear river that I could lay naked on big hot boulders until I got so hot and crispy that I wanted to roll into the crystal clear water and drink it. And I knew I wanted to be closer to San Jose. And I wanted to be between 400 and 800 meters above sea level, which was a great climate to grow food and a great climate to live in. The clearer you get with your criteria, the easier it is to find what you seek. So we currently live in a valley, and now we're almost 200 families from 40 countries. And what we all have in common is that we're radically questioning the way things are and the way that we're living. And what is the commute like to your best friend's house? And where is your water coming from, and where is it going after you use it? I know that we could do so much better. So with my sweetheart, my love, Andrea Belén, she's from Costa Rica, we have now started a project called Eterna. And all that I've learned through permaculture and land stewardship, partnering with her and her dedication to culture and Costa Rican culture, and together we're on such a deep mission for the global redesign and truly working on this world makeover. And thank you, every one of you in here, for all of the incredible work that you're doing. We cordially invite you to join us in Costa Rica. Pura vida. Andrea.
This feels so special. I feel very touched, and I feel very energized and nourished since yesterday that I attend an event full of indigenous women empowered and raising their voice, and it felt so inspiring for me. My name is Andrea Belén. I was born in Paraguay, the only country in the world that has the indigenous language as official language. And I was raised, and I've been living in Costa Rica all my life. Two different countries that have very different histories. Paraguay, on his side, a lot of crises, wars, and also that brings a lot of depth and culture. Costa Rica, in the other side, feel that hasn't had as much crisis, as much wars, and doesn't have even an army. And that creates a very gentle, energetic feel, yet doesn't have the culture and the depth that brings crisis. So I just want to honor the power of trauma, the power of wounds. And I just want to honor us all here for showing up and doing the work. I feel so inspired by all of you. And I believe that we are all here because we have our personal story. My own story is very different than Stephen, and my karma had been very challenging. I come from a dysfunctional family, and I believe that my karma is being creating my dharma and my mission in this world. And I was bullied when I was 19 years old for not knowing English in a society that knowing English in Latin America is a status. My mom was bullied for talking in Guarani. And all this has created very deep reasons for me to show up, even though it's challenging. So I want to thank you all for being here, for listening. I'm celebrating all these different accents, all these different colorful clothing. And I'm celebrating also the people in suits that are sitting here honoring and dancing and creating ceremony and getting together. And feels so sacred. And I'm just so happy and honored and grateful. And that being said, we are creating this community and we have this big challenge of how can we bring more feminine energy into the structure of what we are creating. And Stephen is very passionate about the nature and permaculture and the gardens, yet what are the invisible structures that we are creating? So I just want to invite us all to tap into our feminine and to be caring, listening, and just get unified as we are one. Thank you all for listening. We are time's up a long time ago, and I just feel that I want to keep sharing, but this is an invitation for connection and for co-creation. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you both, and what a beautiful way to continue that session. We're now going to head into our next shorter fireside chat here as we continue the discussion, and it's a little bit of a change of pace, so let's see how we can shake the energy into a new direction, holding and keeping all of that sacred and intentional space that's just been created, that raw, open, emotional self, into the world that we're in as well, and into the world of engaging with the private sector, with businesses, with place-based action through the lens of tourism. So I know it's a journey, and thank you for pivoting with us here. I do just want to thank as well the concept of creating a paradigm shift in the way that we approach this work, being more community-centric, being more feminine-led as well, but being also responsive to place and localized. And I know that's been a theme as we had the conversation here earlier about resiliency and localized action. And so we'll continue upon that theme as we talk about tourism. And I will just also note that we are sad to have lost our third member here, who is going to be, and let me just share specifically who he was, Majed Al-Sad, the founder of Habiba Community, which really pairs beautifully with the community that they're building in Costa Rica. And that's an ecotourism destination here in Egypt. So to think of a localized example of what's happening here. So more information on that can be found in the follow-up. But for now, we'll keep this conversation at a more global level as we discuss solutions. And before I pass it over to my fellow fireside chat speaker here, I will just share that at Oceanic Global, you've really been witnessing and experiencing here the educational engagement work that we do. We have grassroots community around the world. We also engage directly with the industry, with businesses, through our program that's called the Blue Standard. And this is an industry solutions and sustainability verification program. I know it was referenced earlier by somebody who asked a question. It was referenced in the round table. We do offer a free training and consultancy program. The idea is really to empower a new generation of sustainability professionals that are able to engage with businesses within their local community, within their neighborhood, within their sector. Whatever sector that you're in, wherever you live, you can be engaging with this. And we primarily have historically focused on hotels and restaurants in the hospitality and tourism sector, but we have expanded to also work with multinational consumer brands. We do also work with office spaces, with sports stadiums, music festivals. So if you want to learn more about that, please do check out our website at Blue Standard. But through that lens is how we'll be talking about tourism. So with that, I'll please invite my fellow panelist here, Jeremy Smith, to introduce himself.
Thank you very, very much indeed for having me, Cassia, and all of you. It really is a privilege and incredibly refreshing after my last 2 days here in Sharm el-Sheikh to experience what I've just been lucky enough to sit at the back and pay witness to. That was quite incredible, and I apologize for probably what will be quite a shift in energy, and I'll do my best. I'm a writer and strategist working in tourism and sustainability, which is what I've been doing for the last 20 or so years.
Fantastic. And also specifically, Jeremy, you've also been the co-founder of Tourism Declares a Climate Emergency and launching the Glasgow Declaration at COP last year. So that's something you could just share a little bit about as we think about these global commitments that industries can take on. And again, we know it's a shift, but excited for him to share about this.
So if you'll forgive me a little personal story, because I think hopefully it does give the context of why we're here and brings it into the relevance of the oceans. Because, as I said, I was a writer. 15 years ago, I wrote a travel book on sustainability, and I got the great privilege to travel around the world for most of the year. My wife took the year off. There was no way I was going by myself, so we traveled together. It was an amazing opportunity. One of the places I was lucky enough to spend time was on the Quirimbas archipelago in northern Mozambique, staying at a remarkable sort of barefoot eco-lodge there that won awards, worked with the community, restored coral reef, did everything that good tourism that wins awards does. That was 2007. Moved forward to 2019, and Cyclone Kenneth washed in off the Indian Ocean at about 200 kilometers an hour. In space of 5 minutes, over a decade of work was destroyed. It never came back. They were unable to ever open the lodge again. It went. The vulnerability of an industry, a sector such as tourism, that chooses to be remote, that chooses to be isolated from society, to be on the edge of the beach, on the edge of the mountain, was brought incredibly, infinitely close, immensely close to me. And at that moment, not at that moment, but when I heard this story, I knew the people who ran it. I didn't know how to respond. It was somewhere I had loved. And a few weeks later, I did what I do, which is I launched a Twitter account, Tourism Declares a Climate Emergency. Communities around the world were declaring climate emergency and saying, please listen to us. It is an emergency, and you have to treat the situation like you would an emergency, not like some little bit here, little bit there, tweak to business as usual. But I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I just started talking, writing, coming to forums, etc., trying to engage with people. Over the next few months, this developed, and conversations continued until by January 2020, 14 founder signatory companies posted the declaration of climate emergency on their websites, tourism companies, different travel operators around the world. And that began some significant momentum, because you didn't just have one lone voice, you had 14 companies and 14 networks and 14 followers and sets of followers and their groups and the people who loved what they were doing. And it began to grow and grow and grow. Then COVID came along in March 2020, like it does in so many of these stories, and that pivoted us, and we didn't quite know what to do. But it also meant that an awful lot of really talented, wonderful, thoughtful people suddenly found themselves furloughed and without the time, the work that they were doing. And we suddenly had this amazing team of incredible volunteers who were like, let's do this, let's do something. And we continued to grow and grow and grow. And it ended up, it continued until we were in the hundreds of different companies and destinations coming together. But at all times, this was unfunded, volunteers, grassroots, just purpose-led companies coming together. And when we tried to say to the bigger companies or the destinations, you should join, they're like, well, it's not for us. It's something called Tourism Declares an Emergency. It's a Squarespace website run by volunteers in their free time. It's not for us. People, we don't see ourselves in things. We don't feel represented, so we're not for it. Whether we're the biggest company in the world or the most marginalized community. But we needed to talk to the bigger people. We need those people to make changes because they're the ones having impacts. And that conversation evolved for Tourism Declares into talking with the United Nations World Tourism Organization, the United Nations Environment Programme, the Travel Foundation, and Visit Scotland. And Visit Scotland had been the first national tourism organisation to sign up with Tourism Declares, and of course, Scotland was the host of COP26. So we launched the Glasgow Declaration at COP26, 300 founder signatories, the same commitments as Tourism Declares, to publicly commit, to commit to publishing a climate action plan for what your business would do, and then to commit to collaborate. We can't compete on climate. We all win or we all lose. You can't just have one guy getting there and the others don't. And so everyone said, we've got to open up, we've got to share. And we've been working on that ever since. And that's where we are now, continuing to do so.
Yeah, thank you for the backstory there, and to what you just hit upon, and bringing back the feminine leadership concept there in terms of collaborating instead of competing, even within a private sector context. I think that's a great output and example of how this could work in the work that we all do outside of this room as well. I do just want to note that the reason tourism matters, why are we talking about tourism as we think about ocean and climate? Tourism, as many of you may be painfully familiar, can be a very destructive industry, right? It can cause significantly negative impacts in mass tourism and exploiting economies, communities, ecosystems. I think many of us have seen that, witnessed that, or personally are living in communities that are impacted in that way. And at the same time, tourism, by definition, benefits from having healthy communities, healthy ecosystems, a destination that is desirable. It inherently is not based upon extracting resources or extracting minerals. It can be something that is regenerative, that serves if we redefine the way that it works. And I think that's the exciting opportunity in talking about tourism specifically. It's also very locally based and relevant. It's very place-based. And there is the need for participation in a much deeper way. So I just wanted to frame that, and that's why it's so exciting to hear, Jeremy, what you're doing, connecting local community projects with multinational tourism companies with destination-wide management approaches as we think, what does this look like within a specific place and region? So I think that's so critical. Is there anything you can share with us about the declaration? You mentioned climate action plans. Are there any specific targets that are associated or that maybe have bubbled up through this?
I mean, the targets are there for us. The targets are we have to cut emissions in half by 2030, get to net zero or zero as fast as possible. But the framing of the declaration, the framing of the commitments there were 5 pathways. We tried to make it as simple as possible. As you said, tourism is this remarkably complicated industry. It is everything from what's happening out there to the sensitive stories that you've just heard, to the experiences we have when we go camping, to people on trailers. It's all manner of different things. Every single thing is tourism. In the end, tourism is what I do when I'm taking my space away from work and wanting to reconnect with the world, with nature, with resting, with my, it's potentially a very beautiful, beautiful part of our lives. It's also, enormous thing responsible for 8 to 11% of global climate emissions. So, it's a multi-headed beast, shall we say. But how do you bring something together and create collaboration while being incredibly respectful of the need to base it in place and the specifics of the communities and the environments and the ecosystems where they operate? Because you can't just say, there's a template, you lot go and do it, it's all the same for everyone. Right. You've got to bring it up from where they are. And we therefore distilled the declaration, the commitments, to 5 pathways, which is we need to measure, we need to understand what we're doing, we need to understand if this is genuinely having an impact or not. Of course we need to decarbonize, that goes without saying. But for me, the most important of the pathways is the third one, which is regeneration. that tourism has the opportunity not just to do business as usual with slightly less energy, it has to shift to being a positive force and to using that fact that so many of us in this room potentially fell in love with the ocean as a result of times we had on holiday. It connected to us away from our time of daily work and brought us into it. It has an opportunity through permaculture, etc., to restore and to regenerate the land, regenerate community, regenerate our connections to one another and our connection to nature. Putting that at the heart of something that is an industry-focused, UN-led declaration was hard work, but incredibly important for us that came in there. And I think, therefore, having that in there, because there's a lot of people talking these days about regenerative tourism. So to see it not just in the conversations on the edge, but in the heart of UN declarations is vital.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's exciting. And I know we do need to wrap shortly, so I'll just close. If you have any call to action for different audience members who are here with us today, I know we do have quite a diverse range of stakeholders. Any action that all can leave here today with?
Please make sure that I've only been lucky enough to hear half an hour or so, but we need all of you, because the direction of travel will be defined by those who turn up. And if it's turning up here and hearing the people who've turned up, I'm like, I hope that's the direction of travel. I hope those are the people that can send us in the way. And for me, it's not for me to say who, to represent someone else, but I do want to be able to use the platform that we have and the access we have to the UN and all those other things to say, come with us and make sure that tourism fulfills on its potential to support everything that makes this a really beautiful place to be.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for that. So to participate in the dialogue and discussion, I would add a few calls to action as well for the audience. I'm so sorry we don't have time for questions, but we will be around to hang out afterwards. Just want to be respectful for the following speakers. But I will just say that for private sector partners in the audience, I know there are a few, we do have a Blue Grants program. So there's a way that you can actually sponsor the implementation of our program within a region, and that would support hiring local consultants, focusing on a needs-based approach to see what's needed. That could be focusing on local seafood supply chains, that could be focusing on wastewater management, that could be focusing on waste management, plastics elimination, seeing what's needed in different areas and having that be locally led. I would also invite everyone, if you're interested in learning more, to become a Blue consultant. It's a free training and community of practice, truly, of people who are tackling similar challenges around the world in different contexts. And then to everyone else, this is a living lab and community that we learn from each other. So if you have stories to share, raw emotional stories like those we've heard, we are so grateful and honored and open, and it makes us all so much stronger. So thank you again to all the elders and to all the young generation that are in the room too.